Remember that we're still in phylum Mollusca. In the last video we looked at gastropods, that is one class of mollusks. Another class is bivalves, and those would be like clams and oysters. Body plan, bilateral, always going to be that from now on. The shell is divided into two halves, and the two halves are called valves, and so that's where you get the name bivalve from, connected by a hinge. These guys do not have a head like slugs and snails do. There's no distinct head. Some of them will have these little eye spots, that's about as close to a head as you get, but otherwise there's nothing like that. They just look like a lump of goo inside of a shell. Respiration, they have gills. You're going to be dissecting a clam, and they will look like this long, feathery little piece. They'll be very easy to find. Circulatory system is open. Remember, this means that there is no set of blood vessels. Their blood-like fluid goes from a heart structure into their tissues. Some have small eyes. You can see that with the blue dots in the bottom picture. And these eyes are not for actually seeing images like a person could, but it's more of a sense of danger, light, shadow. It helps them decide when they need to pull in their foot or close up their shell. When you get to the clam dissection, this is what you're going to basically see. Here is a set of gills, feathery, easy to find, will probably be the easiest structure. The mantle is right along the shell. Remember, the mantle secretes the shell, so this is going to line the shell. You have some muscles. Adductors are going to close the shell. The foot retractor is going to pull the foot in. Anterior, posterior, you should know what those words mean by now. Here's the foot. It's this big muscle right here. You have some palps that help pull food in, so it brings water into the clam so they can filter out the things that they're trying to eat. So, on that note, feeding, they filter feed. In the last group, the last class, gastropods, they had that radula, that saw-like tongue to drill through things and scrape off algae. In terms of bivalves, they have some little tubes called siphons, which they just draw in water, filter out what they want, and then kick the water and whatever else they don't want back out. That's called filter feeding. Excretion, they have an anus for solid material, and then siphons. The in-current siphon would bring water in, the ex-current siphon would kick water out for filter feeding. Movement, most of these are sessile, meaning they can't move. However, some do move. They can use their foot, or things like oysters can flap open and close to help move them through the water. Body support, they all have a body cavity, so they are called coelomates. Remember, the body cavity is called a coelom. Reproduction, have separate sexes, and what they do, those two siphons that I talked about before, the in-current and the ex-current, the sperm can come in the in-current siphon, fertilize inside the bivalve, and then larva goes out the ex-current siphon and then becomes its own bivalve. Examples, we have clams and oysters. Now you don't need to write this little factoid, it's just a fun little FYI. The largest clam that we know of, 440 pounds, 3.3 feet across. That's crazy. On a side note, you don't need to write this down. How pearls form? Pearls form in oysters when you get a little piece of debris, like sediment, stuck in, and this is a way for the oyster to get rid of the sediment. There's this material called nacre, and if you look up at this button, that's what that material is like, nacre. It's that iridescent, rainbowy kind of colored stuff. And you'll see this actually in your clam when you dissect it. There will be some nacre in the shell. And anyway, so nacre keeps wrapping around and around and around the debris, and you end up with a pearl. Now that this video is over, you should know what bivalves are and describe their life functions. You have a quiz to take. You need to complete the column on the cheat chart. You still don't need to get it checked off yet. That will be after the next video. And then you're going to complete a clam coloring sheet. And the reason why I'm having you do this is because it's going to help serve as a map when you do the clam dissection, which is the step after the coloring. So get the coloring done, I'll check it, and then make sure that you get it back for the dissection because it's going to help you out. For the dissection, You each need to fill out your own sheet. You may work with a group of up to 3 people total, so including yourself, 3 people. The question sheet, everybody needs their own, but you need to come get the dissection instructions from me, and that's a class copy.